being your host for the day. And in studio, we have with us Ms. Biringiro from the Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. Now, today we are going to be discussing corruption. This is something that has been eating up the country for very, very many years. And of course, we want to look at how we can curb this corruption, from the top down to the lowest person, or should I say to the lowest agency, or just as a country. This is something that we definitely need to fight because it is a vice that is in the country and is ever growing as we go by the day. Now, recently we have been hearing stories of ghost workers. We have heard stories where people are being paid, yet they're not in their places of work. A high amount has been lost, billions of shillings because of ghost workers. And of course, this is something that continues to rise on a daily. So today, Ms. Christine is going to be addressing this and, of course, giving us more information about this. But before we dive into that, Ms. Christine, you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. And good morning to our viewers.
I hope your morning is okay. I know we woke up on a cold note.
Yeah, the weather is cold, but I think that's good because we don't like the heat so much.
Yeah, the heat can be.
And we need to be fresh in the morning. So I think the weather is good.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Now, corruption. To start with, what do you think are the causes? We are having cases on a daily. First of all, it was ghost workers. Here we are seeing people being arrested day in, day out, and some, they're not even being arrested, but somehow they have been found in corruption cases. So what do you think are some of the things that are causing an increase, a surge in corruption cases in the country?
Well, thank you that we are discussing such an important subject. I believe corruption should be, the topic of discussion, if possible, on a daily, so that we can see how we get solutions to this scourge. So, first of all, my take is that, one, the institutions that we have for fighting corruption growing weaker and weaker in as far as implementing their mandate and implementing the laws and policies that are in place. Of course, there's quite a background as to why they have become weaker. And one of the things is that they are not well resourced, both in terms of the human resource, but also in terms of the finances, to be able to fight and address this corruption. But also, we also see weak oversight. Still within these institutions, we are talking about the ghost workers now. And this is not the first time, of course. We've seen this way back. We had ghost pensioners, we had ghost pupils, We have so many ghosts in our past. So that has been, part of the corruption that we have seen in the past. And quite a number of other things. But one of the key things is that we don't see, while we see a few arrests here and there, we don't see much in as far as conviction, prosecutions, and then later asset recovery or recovering the proceeds, and then you talk about restitutions for the victims of some of this corruption. So I think that has mainly caused the increase in the corruption that we are seeing, because we are not very intentional, then the corrupt are getting away with it. So we don't prosecute them, and we see because of that now there's been growing impunity. The corrupt are more bold. They come out. It has been accepted. They are powerful, and so we are struggling with this corruption. That is why it is on the rise and on the increase. And so we've seen this evolve. There's been a whole evolution of this corruption, dating way back from the pre-colonial period. We know there was corruption even before we got our independence. But the scale was not what we see today.
Yes.
While there was petty bribery, there was a bit of nepotism and favoritism, but we see that because of the controls that were in place at that time, where you had power consolidated and controlled by the governor, for example, and you had the interests of these colonialists were revenue generation, and so you didn't have money coming back to deliver services to the people. So there was perhaps little money that was circulating, and so less chance for this grand-scale corruption that we see today. But post-colonialism, we see it growing a bit. And by the way, during the Obote times, again, Obote too, you'll think I'll not tell you my age, but somehow I know some of these things. We still had some of those ghosts by then. Yes, the ghost workers, ghost soldiers, they had started creeping up. And so you have the NRM government come into power in 1986. Between 86 and perhaps 96 there, we had, this commitment to fight corruption. We had the fundamental change that the NRM came to promise. And in fact, one of their 10-point program, I think that was point 7, was focusing on corruption, fighting corruption and etc. And so we see institutions like the Inspectorate of Government was born then in 86. Just like Shaku, the State House Anti-Corruption, it was a unit in the President's office at that time. And then we also see the Auditor General's office later in 2008 and etc. And so we see this, strong institutional but also legal, frameworks that were brought into place by the government. And there was hope of fighting corruption, but later we see that the petty corruption that was there at first was not addressed, during the structural adjustment program, the changes that took place. We see the corruption was, was pardoned or was not punished enough. And so this gave way to bigger, corruption scandals. You had your valley dams, your junk helicopters. Later you have the Chogam, Gavi Global Fund and etc. And so because these now involved high-level officials, ministers, and these went scot-free. They were not punished, but one characteristic is that this also involved huge sums of money. You had huge sums of money involved, and so at the expense of public services, delivering social services to the communities. And so we see this evolve because there's less action. We see the corrupt getting even more and more emboldened. They continue with the corruption. And so it gave way to the grand-scale corruption that we see now, that has become syndicated. It has become systemic. And now we are talking about the ghost workers, over 10,000. And not just in one institution, because corruption has moved from individual, and now we have the systemic corruption that we see. You have your Entebbe Referral Hospital that was implicated. You have your Uganda Police Force. You have your MOBs and many other institutions, CAA. And so that is why corruption has now become embedded in our systems, and it is becoming harder to uproot. We'll need, I think, more serious interventions to be able to address this scourge. True. Prayers and action. So now that you're talking about actually having solid solutions to this corruption, in your view, how do you think we can best curb this corruption? And actually, we do have the big fish, that you also mentioned, that we have been seeing throughout the years. We see corruption cases happening with leaders, in the country. Not only leaders, different people. But because they're the big fish, nothing happens. We will hear a court case here,
They were arrested, remanded. After a few months, it has died out.
Yeah, true.
How do you think that can be countered?
So I think the fight against corruption in Uganda can only be successful if citizens actually come up and they become serious and they fight this corruption. Because with government and, well, let me say public institutions, because government includes the citizens. Yeah. So with these public institutions, it seems like they have gone in too deep and it is beyond them. You have your institutions that have been weakened, sometimes intentionally. They cannot bite, because we've seen them come out before, the IGGs before, how they, try to rise up and then they're helpless because the corrupt are powerful. And so they get away scot-free. So our institutions seem to have been weakened. Their independence has been taken away. The powers have been usurped. And so I think it is the citizens who can only come in and help with this fight against corruption. Well, I want to credit, of course, it is not all doom and gloom. I want to credit some of the government institutions because some are doing quite some good work in as far as trying to curb, control, and prevent this corruption is concerned. I usually want to refer to the efforts of the PPDA. PPDA has come up with innovations, digital innovations. They have what we call the contract monitoring system, and they have partnered with citizens, but also with civil societies, to make sure that in real time they are able to identify problematic contracts, public contracts that perhaps are going wrong, and they enable citizens to monitor, identify some of these loopholes, and communicate them in real time, and so these are addressed at that time. Similarly, the Office of the Auditor General has the Citizen Feedback Platform, and this is general service delivery concerns. If there's a service delivery concern by a citizen, then they take a screenshot or a picture, and then it is sent to the Office of the Auditor General, and they also come in at that point. It can inform audits and etc. So these are some of the good, innovations that we see from government and their institutions. But we also note and observe that largely we see weak response in as far as convictions, as just meditating or reflecting a few days ago on how many, for example, senior government officials in this country, ministers, for example, we've had ministers implicated
very much
in these scandals. But I do not know how many have been convicted. I think I only know Kabafunzachi. Apart from that, I haven't had any minister that has been convicted and is serving a jail sentence. And so these are the concerns. We don't see much coming through in terms of recoveries as well, because we are losing, the IG tells us, close to 10 trillion in a year to corruption. But the recovery of that money is less than 1%. We recover less than 1%. So that goes in as far as showing how weak our fight against corruption has become. So that is why I'm emphasizing that it is only the citizen that can be able to fight this corruption. Citizens, one, because they have, to a great extent, facilitated this corruption. They have glorified this corruption. The IG will tell you that sometimes when they are, picking out some of these corrupt, the citizens will actually come behind and they demand the release of their man or woman. And so, and the next day they'll be crying, we don't have medicines in hospitals, our children are dying, and yet we are taking bribes. This is the electoral season. We
yes.
know, and we know how elections in our country are synonymous and tied so much to corruption. You have a lot of bribery, you have a lot of, vote buying, vote selling, and so much more. You have people investing so much, the politicians, billions and billions of shillings into campaigns, making sure they must come into office. So when you have such people take office, then you don't expect much in as far as eliminating corruption is concerned. So unless the citizens take up their responsibility, sometimes it just starts with saying no.
Yes.
If someone is giving you a bribe, just say no. If a leader wants to buy your vote, say no. Give it to the leader that you feel, is going to help you deliver the services. And the citizens know these kinds of leaders.
Yes.
But they choose to go with the ones who have the money because they want money. And unfortunately, this is not so much money. They just
Very
give them
little money.
And this money is not even going to help them maybe invest
in the next
or
2 hours.
Start up a business. You live just for the moment. But you're throwing away your whole future. You're throwing away the future of your children. You're compromising the state of public services in our health sector, in our education sector. And so for me, largely, I think if the citizen does not rise up and actually take part in the war against corruption, then we are not going to be able to fight this corruption. With government, I think it is beyond. Now there's nothing they can do. They can't do much to eliminate this corruption. It has to be the citizen. And unfortunately, the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity did a study sometime, and they released their results or the report in 2023, and they showed that 80% of citizens are not doing anything to fight corruption.
Wow.
Yes, and over 50% say there's nothing they can do to fight corruption. So we see there's a lot of apathy within the citizens. Perhaps that is why they have decided to join. They say if you can't fight them, then you join them. So the citizens have decided to join the corruption that we see, and that is very dangerous. Because ultimately we are the losers, we as the citizens. And so for us to fight corruption, it has to start with the citizens saying no. And then you can go ahead and even report corruption. But first and foremost, you must say no to corruption. If you can't be bribed, if you refuse a bribe, and then the next person also refuses a bribe, then I think just that would be enough to
of something.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Now, do you believe that unemployment could be a major cause of corruption in the country?
Oh yes. Unemployment definitely drives corruption. One, Boo was speaking off air, of course, and we saw that the jobs of these youth, you have about 700,000 that are sent out in the job market every year, have been taken up by ghosts. The 10,000, ghost workers. Those are quite a number of jobs for the youth, but if they cannot be able to attract or to get employment, then we see them engage in other acts, and they have also been compromised. We have seen people compromising them. They engage in acts of corruption, and then of course to their detriment. Sometimes they are throwing away their future, and increasingly you've seen the population now expect something. I saw the Honorable Prime Minister recently saying, you don't expect me to go for a rally and then, you don't give people transport or a bottle of water. Soda. But really, I think if I am convinced that this is the leader that I want, then you don't have to pay them. You don't have to pay anyone anything for them to come and listen to you.
Yeah.
If your message is actually convincing, then either way they'll come and listen to you.
Yes.
And so we've made the youth expect. They expect, even for any small gathering, they expect and anticipate that there's going to be perhaps some money, there's going to be something, and they have pushed this. They actually always demand.
Yes.
If you're calling them and there's nothing you're giving them, then they don't have anything to do, any business for you.
Yeah.
But also we've seen a lot of insecurity. We've seen a lot of insecurity because they have got the skills, they have got the education, but they have not been absorbed.
Yes.
You know, and so they are just there. They, you know, the insecurity, both politically even, but also economically, and that has become a problem for us. So I think even beyond absorbing them into the public sector, because the public sector is small.
Yes.
But of course, I also need to mention that we have some of our public sector workers who have already clocked the age of retirement, and they still insist they don't want to let go of the jobs for these youth.
Yes.
So you have on the one hand these gentlemen and ladies
Who don't want to
not
leave.
wanting to leave the public service, but also on the other hand you have them taking away the jobs, the jobs that the youth would have taken. And of course, the youth in our country are the bigger demographic.
Yes.
So there we do actually have a big problem. So I think we can also see how we strengthen the private sector to make sure that these youth are absorbed, you know. Some of them are innovative, some of them have the energy, because this is the age of working. That's when they're energetic, they need to give back to their country.
Yes.
And so we need to see the private sector strengthened. We need to support the private sector to be able to absorb most of these youth, and create more jobs.
Okay. Well, you have heard it right there from Miss Christine, and of course, we are going for a short commercial break, but do stay tuned. We'll be back as we discuss corruption.
Issues at hand. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand.
Yes, welcome back. And of course, we are discussing issues to do with corruption in the country, how we can curb it, and of course, how we can fight this vice that is eating us up. And of course, with me is Miss Christine Biringiro from the Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. Now, moving on, Miss Christine, we have seen that there's a lot of government agencies have been created to curb corruption. Even the State House has its own anti-corruption units that the president himself created. Now, how do you think these government agencies and institutions can improve, should I say, on fighting corruption in the country?
Yeah, one is for these government institutions to talk together, to have that coordination within and amongst themselves, because we've seen quite a number of times there's weak coordination or sometimes no coordination at all.
Yes.
You'll find that, for example, a citizen will report a case of corruption to the office of the IG, and the same citizen, because sometimes the citizens feel their matters are urgent and they need them to be addressed as soon as possible. And so they feel, if I can report to, as many agencies as possible, perhaps the one that acts first, at least one will,
go
pick
first.
the issue and identify and perhaps act on it. So you'll find the issue is reported to the office of the IG, and the same issue is taken to the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, and maybe another agency, or even to a court of law. And so you'll find these institutions will now start working on this issue. They'll get resources and, pull them towards addressing this issue. And towards the end of it all, you'll find that resources have been spent by these 2 or 3 or 4 institutions to work on the same issue. And so if we had better coordination, stronger partnership and collaboration within these agencies, you would find that, these issues are either channeled to the right agency or handled without wasting resources, And so I feel one of the key areas that government needs to strengthen is speak to each other. The agencies must speak to each other. Yeah. But also, I feel in addition to this, we need to improve some of our frameworks, our legal frameworks. While we've always talked about a strong and good elaborate legal and institutional framework for our country in as far as fighting corruption, we still feel there are a bit of gaps and that needs to be tightened. And I'll give an example. As a country, we don't have a witness protection law. And that greatly hampers our efforts in the fight against corruption. You could say, even if we have the witness protection law, still we'll have the corruption. Yes, it is possible we'll still have the corruption, but it is good practice to have these laws, because we don't legislate for ourselves here and now. These are going to stay for posterity. They'll stay for the generations that are coming, and hopefully will be implemented by them. And so if we had a witness protection law, we feel that perhaps witnesses and citizens would come out and give evidence in court. We had recently the Mabati scandal, and we had over 50 government officials, whether in parliament, whether ministers, that were implicated. But just imagine if you had evidence as a citizen, if you were there and you saw firsthand and you wanted to give that evidence in court. Would you stand as you
Stand firm.
and give this evidence against a minister, against a member of parliament? These are powerful individuals, and so we feel witnesses fear to come out and give critical evidence and information because of the fear of retaliation. So we need to see how we protect the witnesses. If we had the witness protection law, perhaps we would be able to secure more convictions, because we would be able to access and, get more evidence. But also with our asset recovery framework, while we have the Anti-Corruption Act, that gives us, the basis as government or as institutions of government to do recover assets from the corrupt. And indeed, we have seen some recoveries, like we've said, though really low, very low recoveries. But we feel there's an angle of asset recovery that is not yet explored in Uganda, and that is the non-conviction based asset recovery. So beyond just taking the suspect through the whole procedure of court, and then you finally convict them, and then perhaps recover the proceeds of corruption, we feel that that process is so long. Some of our court cases take as long as 10 years, 7-10 years, even more. And so by that time, for you to wait for the conviction and then go to pick the proceed, perhaps sometimes it has been dealt away with. Sometimes it has been compromised, it has been moved. If it is something that is, perishable, it has perished and all that, know. And so to avoid that, we encourage that we explore the non-conviction based asset recovery mechanism, where you proceed against the asset. We have, in our neighborhoods, we have seen buildings mushrooming. We have seen, politicians or government officials, public officials, how much they earn. But, you see them with all this wealth, and it is unexplainable. And, unfortunately, our IG has been scared and told to go slow on the lifestyle audit. But some of these properties we see, and we know for a fact who they belong to. So if the IG, for example, can be able to proceed to come and just, confiscate this property, and then require whoever owns the property to go and show cause, or explain, perhaps that would be a better way and quicker than us first, alerting the corrupt. Then, if they see their chances of losing the property are high, they'll sell it off, they'll transfer it, and, and then we'll end up losing. So we also want to explore the non-conviction based asset recovery, and we see that the Inspectorate of Government are actually already doing some bits of recovery out of court, but we want this to be legislated for, we want a law to provide for this, because we know these are susceptible to abuse. If you're doing this, it is not legislated for. We don't know if someone will come and say, by the way, you're involved in this, you have embezzled this much, so can we talk, So someone can say, let me give you what I give you, and then I give you less, And so that might also facilitate corruption further. So we want to see the non-conviction based asset recovery mechanisms also strengthened, and this would be cured if we passed the Proceeds of Crime Bill. It is still a bill, and we look forward to that day when it will be passed, and then we are able to recover in real time some of these proceeds.
Now, we do see, you did mention earlier that these agencies are lacking certain things, for them to be able to effectively curb corruption or fight corruption. So how do you think best these agencies can be strengthened in the fight against corruption?
Well, one of the ways, one is to leave them retain their independence. The Inspectorate of Government is independent. It's an independent body created under the Constitution. We have the Office of the Auditor General, independent, quite a number of these institutions. But even Parliament is independent, the judiciary, all of these. And they have their role in as far as fighting corruption. And so the reason, I think, the spirit of the Constitution in making these institutions independent was to avoid, that influence peddling and compromising them in the work they do. And so, because the work that they are supposed to do is quite, what should I say, delicate or very key, in that they are supposed to be left to exercise their independence. But when we compromise them, when we tie their hands,
Yes.
in one way or another, then I think we are preventing them from effectively executing their mandate. And so sometimes we have seen the independence robbed or taken away from them through perhaps giving them little resources, allocating fewer resources than they are supposed to get, even when the resources are there. I mean, even if we lose a 53, they said 53 billion through the ghost workers, because that's what we have now. So I think the 53 billion would do much in as far as facilitating these offices to undertake their mandate or to do their jobs. So one, we want to give them enough resources. Two, we want to strengthen them with the human resource that they need, the funds that they need, and then let them exercise their independence, let them do their work without any compromise. And so that is one of the key areas, perhaps the key area in which these institutions can be supported.
Okay. Now, what can you say, or what can be done, especially us as citizens? What do you think we can do best to help in the struggle and the fight against corruption?
So one, the citizens can help first and foremost by identifying and reporting. Identify and report corruption. There's a lot of apathy because citizens have repeatedly said and noted that even when they report some of these cases, there is nothing that is done, and so that is why they have taken the back seat. But it is about persistence, because the impact of corruption on the citizens is much more. And so I think we need to persist. So first and foremost, citizens need to report, identify and report corruption to these institutions, but also ensure that they continue to follow up. While we have tried as civil society, as government, sometimes we do follow up with government on some of these citizens' concerns. A number of cases, you'll find citizens have reported maybe 100 cases, but even when the IG, for example, has resolved some of those cases, then you don't see feedback to these citizens, and so that discourages them. So I think it is important that citizens also continue to follow up with government and see how these cases have been resolved and what the outcome has been. But also secondly, is that the citizen must say no to corruption. That by doing that, by the way, they are supporting the efforts of these institutions of government. If you say no to corruption, then I think corruption would be history in Uganda. I just imagine the day that everyone says no. You say no to a bribe, a traffic officer stops you and you have committed an offense, you go and pay the fine in the bank. And, the pain or the inconvenience of paying that fine, will motivate you not to repeat or to be more alert the next time. So if we as citizens are able to actually go through with that, I think that would help both government but also us in the fight against corruption. So citizens have a very big role in the fight against corruption. It actually begins and ends with us. We can only help government to fight corruption. Government alone cannot be able to fight corruption.
Now, what would you advise to a citizen who is willing to report a case of corruption, but probably the person they are reporting is a big person, in the country or in the government or whatever it is. How best do you think they can go about such a situation?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we have, again, laws that protect citizens or whistleblowers. We have the Whistleblower Protection Act. And then we also have, for courts, we have quite a number of procedures to protect the identity of the witness, should they, choose to come out with evidence that is going to help incriminate the high-level official that is being reported or is being prosecuted. So government, or these the ODPP, the prosecutors, they have quite a number of ways. You've seen they can hide the witness identity. They can decide to do the voice. There's a way in which they hide the voice. They change the voice. They can change the face. They can take evidence in confidence and in camera. So there are quite a number of ways that they do protect the witness. Unfortunately, government has always, indeed the prosecutors have always complained that whistleblowers usually blow their own cover, especially for now these high-profile cases. And that is quite dangerous to them. So I think there needs to be quite some awareness raising as well, in addition to the whistleblowing. Because you perhaps out of excitement, if I report and a minister is incarcerated, I bring the evidence and they are arrested and indeed prosecuted and taken behind bars. Sometimes these whistleblowers come out and they say, you see, because you want to be associated with that person going behind bars, and you want to show that you're powerful, you're the one who brought out that. And little do they know that they are putting themselves in danger. Yes, there's quite a number of perhaps support for this person, and even the communities themselves, the community members, the family, the supporters of this senior official can come out and excommunicate you from the community. They can do anything, to get back at this whistleblower. So one of the there are quite a number of measures that are in place as we speak. This ordinary person only needs to get in touch with government, with the relevant institutions, go to the Inspectorate of Government, go to the ODPP, and then there are protection measures that can be taken.
Okay, now the big question. Do you think there is hope to kick corruption out of Uganda completely? Do you think there is hope?
Yes, I've always learned that yes, there is hope. We have seen corruption in this country. It is embedded. It is in the fabric of our society. But one of the things that I've learned is that the biggest room in this world is the room for improvement. And so for that reason, I am hopeful. It might not be in our generation, even not in the next generation, but I'm hopeful that a day will come when corruption will reduce greatly in this country, and that day can only come when citizens become serious. If we do not now begin corrupting the minds of our young generation, some of the work we do as Anti-Corruption Coalition is to work and build youth integrity clubs, what we call youth integrity clubs, both in school and out of school. And the objective is that we want to rebuild the fiber of society. we want to see morals come back.
Yes.
Though unfortunately, we see that, even children, young children have already been, contaminated and they have become corrupt at quite an early age. But I think the main thing is for us to focus on this young generation.
Yes.
There isn't much we can do with our generation. We are gone. We can't, but with the young generation, I think we can start from there and improve. We rebuild our morals. We try to inculcate these values of integrity into our society. And so, yes, there is hope. We always have to be hopeful in life. Yeah. We don't know when this will come, but we believe that it will come. Yeah.
And now, if you could give your parting shots to our dear viewers.
Yes, thank you very much. One, to the media, that we always have these incidences, these issues come out in the public, and we facilitate public debate, public discussion, but we are also able to paint a picture for the citizens out there on one, the impact and how connected or how linked to some of these things they are. Perhaps someone will hear 53 billion has been lost and they're like, that is government, we are used, they are corrupt, but they do not know that this will affect them, that when they go to the hospital and they find no drugs, it is because of the 53 billion, or that they do not have schools, because the 53 billion could have constructed 53 schools, So when we are able to get this opportunity to try to break it down for the ordinary citizen, and because the media has, wide reach, we are able to at least paint a picture, bring these ideas down to the common man and the common woman. And so my plea is that let these instances, these episodes not just die away, because in Uganda we have seen this week we have ghosts, next week we have something else, so this hurts our efforts and so let's have this continuously discussed, let it continue to be in the public domain until we recover the 53 billion. So let's follow it up until we are able to see how this 53 billion comes back. Thank you
so much. Well, you heard it right there. Corruption is a vice that is eating up our country very fast, and if we do not do something, not only as the government, it's not only the government's mandate, but it's also our mandate as citizens, as individuals, to make sure that we fight this vice and fight it very sternly, firmly, to see that at least if it is not completely over, let it reduce. People should stop being corrupt. And of course, this goes out to everyone. Well, that has been our topic of discussion today, corruption, something that you definitely have to fight by all means. And of course, with me has been Miss Christine Biringiro from the Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. And we do want to say thank you for coming, for educating us, and for telling us what we need to know as the citizens of Uganda.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I'm always glad to be here.
You're welcome. Well, that has been it for us this morning. Thank you for staying tuned to Church of Uganda Family TV. I am Hope Nyongereza, but we still do tell you to stay tuned for many more programs coming right up. But it's time for me to say goodbye, and I will be seeing you tomorrow morning. Have a blessed day.
Issues at hand.